Unconventional.
You're such a fool,
That's
honestly.
what we are.
That's so not the vibe. Anson Henry.
Jade Johnson.
Are you excited?
Excited about
Well,
the Olympics.
the Olympics. About what?
I'm excited about the Olympics, yes. Are you excited?
It's interesting. We have the Olympics and we have a pandemic. What do you feel about that?
This Olympics experience is going to be like none other. We've been to 2 Olympics. There's been many Olympics in the past. There's going to be many Olympics in the future. This experience is going to be separated from everyone else's. All the people that go to these games can be like, yeah, I went to the COVID Olympics. It's an Olympics on its own.
Well, that's one positive thing that they have because...
it's a tricky word. I ain't like saying that word.
I know, right? You know, one of those ones where
it's a
you're
good thing. Let's say it's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
Have you seen the Olympics Playbook?
Dude.
Well, for those who don't know, the Olympics Playbook is basically a breakdown of the procedures and protocols, the rules and regulations that all the athletes have to do when they get to the Olympics. Athletes, officials, coaches, everybody has to do once they get to the Olympic Village.
The rules.
Actually, not even when they get there. 14 days before they leave.
Yeah.
What they have to do and what they have to do to get back.
Mm-hmm.
Everything, all the A's, B's, C's and D's.
E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, I, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y.
Yeah, you got it, yeah.
It's 70 pages, so it's the whole entire alphabet I had to say for a reason.
Did you read the whole thing?
Hell no! Listen, what athlete's going to read that whole entire thing?
I don't know. I read most of it.
But also, you're not an athlete anymore.
No. I might get to the rest of it at some point, but dang, 70 pages?
But let me ask you a question. When you're an athlete, right, even when anyone sent you anything, did you ever read your whole entire Olympic
I didn't.
contract yet to write? No.
Thankfully, there were people around that knew the ones and twos, but
then you're putting yourself in their
that?
hands.
Yeah.
No one ain't reading it. No one ain't got time. And also, I'm not being funny, right? But your brain is in a certain place, a certain mind frame going into Olympic Games. It's very focused. You don't really want any outside distractions. You don't want anything to take your mental off of its game. You want to basically stay focused and positive, and you want to basically feel like you're invincible, right? And you want to stay feeling invincible. If you read this thing, you're going to be in like Fearsville.
Let's go through a bit of it. Well, first off, just getting to the games. Apparently, you're only allowed there 5 days before you compete. Usually, you get there whenever you want.
Whenever you want.
Yeah, I remember some people get there right when it opens.
Yeah, even if we're in the second week.
Yeah, they say the games start on the 23rd. You can get there like a week before.
Mm-hmm.
And some athletes would get there for the entire time to acclimatize, get used to the village, get used to the food, get in a routine, all that stuff, because everything's different, right? But 5 days before, and you have to leave 2 days after.
But the 5 days before is that you have to get to the Olympic Village 5 days before your event.
You've been in jet lag situations before. I know, coming from the States or coming from Canada over to Europe,
yeah,
they might be right in that hot spot of the jet lag. You feel messed up. They
usually say take a day for every hour. The smart thing would just be straight away get on that time zone. The other day I was watching Shelley-Ann Fraser-Pryce. I think which race is she running?
Continental Tour
in Hungary. The commentators were mentioning that Shelley-Ann Fraser-Pryce, she was at the track at 6 a.m. in the morning already doing her thing because she was already trying to get on the time zone, which is what you would do if you're a professional athlete. You're already taking all those things into consideration.
Well, I know that most athletes ain't going to be doing that. She's 34. She's seasoned.
Yeah.
She's acquired some knowledge.
Those young ones.
You're lucky if you get them just going to sleep at a good time in their time zone.
And the worst thing is, right, usually when you come over to Europe, like let's say the American athletes or the Caribbean, they come over to Europe for the first time and they start doing the Diamond Leagues and the Golden Leagues, whatever. Golden Leagues, I said some old stuff.
Yeah, you dated yourself still.
That was old.
You dated yourself,
That was seriously old. That's what it was called in my day, the Golden League. Do you remember that? Well, usually the Diamond Leagues are in the evening. What happens when you go to the Olympics? Your rounds are in the morning and then your final will be in the evening.
Mm-hmm.
So all that, even if you've come and done a couple, competitions over in Europe and you think, yeah, you know it. No, dude, because evening sessions means you can sleep all day.
Well, a lot of other things make it tricky. So let's go through what happens when you get there. Page 24. Sorry, page 23 of the Olympic Playbook.
And by the way, we're not going through this whole entire thing.
Are you out of your mind? No, we're not. Ever.
We ain't got time for all that because probably most of
you It's actually quite interesting. A lot of stuff was kind of cool. They had
but it's interesting, but it's not interesting.
Some comics in there as well with like actual people where they're going through the protocols and you can read the...
But Anson, they're doing that because this is some hell.
Yeah.
These are crazy restrictions and rules that are being placed on athletes. And so they're trying to make it all fun.
Yeah.
Because that's the only fun part is what I can see a comic. Does that take away from the fact that I'm basically going to wear a GPS monitor on myself?
Wait, no. Hold on. We're going to get to that.
I'm just saying.
Hold on. So 96 hours before and 72 hours before, you have to take 2 COVID tests. They both have to come back negative. When they get to the airport, you take another one, and that one has to be negative as well.
So 3 within 4 days.
Yes. Mind you, you're arriving at the Olympics, okay? I remember when I got off the plane at the Olympics, it's like, yo, I'm here. The air smells different. You come in, everything's all lavish and everything looks all prestigious. And it's like, yo, I'm arrived. I'm here.
That's where you start feeling more like an Olympian. You should.
Arriving was probably the least stressful part of being there before you compete. Because after that, it starts to get serious. Start thinking about prep and all that. But this time, you have your negative tests on you. And you better test negative for this test as well.
So that means you just got off a flight.
Yes.
You have to take a test and wait in the airport for an hour to get the results?
How long it takes to get the results is questionable, but I know that a few of my former colleagues I saw go over for broadcast, they were waiting like 3 or 4 hours to get the results.
The last thing you want to do is wait for another couple hours in an airport to get a result of a test that you already had.
That better come back negative.
That better come back
negative.
We'll
get to what happens if it's positive in a second. If your tests are negative, you go straight to your transport and head to the village. If your test is positive, you're taken by a dedicated transport to the COVID-19 clinic at the Olympic and Paralympic Village for a confirmatory PCR test. If your PCR test results are confirmed positive, you must isolate and receive medical treatment in the hospital in accordance with the instructions of the Japanese health authorities.
You have to stay in the hospital.
You have to stay in a hospital.
For how long?
Doesn't say.
I know that.
Later in the playbook, it lets you know that if you test positive, you're not competing. Imagine that.
So basically, you've taken all these precautions, restricted your life. Because listen, some of the athletes that you've been in contact with, because you went up to Gateshead, some of them, there's some serious anxiety and some the nerves and the...
Yo, imagine I went to Gateshead and I happened to end up around some athletes and the tension of just... someone else is around. Oh, stay away. We got to be careful. It's like, I wasn't even competing. I felt it. You're supposed to spend the entire lead into the games and at the games and at the airports and all these.
Do you remember this? Like you get to the Olympics before your event, you're like, oh, let me not wear flip-flops. Let me wear my compression socks to walk from my apartment to the food hall because the main food hall is like double the distance and I don't want to tire out my calf muscles because I want to make sure that every single part of everything I do. Oh, you're trying to be hydrated. You're trying to make sure that every single thing. Imagine that, all of those things. Plus, I don't want to get COVID because if I get COVID, you are not allowed to compete anymore.
That would suck.
That would suck. Imagine. You did all of this. You waited an extra year. All of the re-preparation with you and your coach and all of everything you guys went through to... Like, I was watching this thing the other day on Katerina Johnson-Thompson. British girl. She's world champion. It was supposed to be an amazing showdown between her and Tiam in the heptathlon.
It's really upsetting, and especially upsetting to me that, my family isn't going to be there. If there could be one person in the stadium and not 1,000 fans, I just wanted my mum to be there to share the moment with me. It's going to be a mad one, and I hope that when it happens, it's just one of these, big relief for, the whole world to just see some, normality and just sit down and watch sports, no matter what we have to do in order to get it running, whether we have to have 3 tests a day with breakfast, lunch and dinner, let's just get it done.
The Olympics and the pandemic.
So in one of those comics I was telling you about, they used a wheelchair basketball player in the example. I like these comics. Her name is Lauren. She's tested positive. So they confirm the test. It's come back positive, and Lauren's really disappointed. But she knows she needs to protect the other athletes. She'll now go to the isolation facility outside of the village as per her CLO's instructions.
CLO?
COVID Liaison Officer. That's a CLO. Get to know them very well.
We didn't have those at our games.
No, we didn't. We had liaisons, but they were
athlete liaison officers.
COVID liaison officers. So Tokyo 2020 has organized a dedicated transport to take her to the facility. She's worried, but her CLO is in constant contact. They have told her that the personnel at the facility speak English and they're arranging for her things to be taken, her clothes, her toiletries.
So she can't even go back and get her things?
No, she can't get her stuff. It's being arranged for her stuff to get to the facility. Lauren CLO will work with the Japanese health authorities to determine how long she'll need to stay in isolation. She's reassured that she'll be comfortable and there's free Wi-Fi.
Woohoo!
So she'll be able to keep in touch with her CLO, team, and family and friends.
The CLO first, yeah?
They make this isolation sound kind of, you know what I'm saying?
Like a holiday.
Yeah, it's all right. You got free Wi-Fi and some free Wi-Fi, but you'll be all right.
And some free Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
I mean, what else do you need in this world that we live in? Prison.
Well, that would be the whole, because the games is already going to be like prison.
Yeah.
But going into isolation like this would be like going to the hole.
Yeah. And the prison guard for that little section comes and knocks on and says, "Are you okay?"
And drops your food through the slot. Athletes are going to have that stress. I don't know if they actually read the playbook, but if I read this playbook knowing the repercussions, knowing everything that happened, I would go in like, I cannot fail this test. I cannot fail this test. I cannot fail this test.
This is what I'm saying. This is the one good thing about most athletes who definitely ain't reading that whole 70 pages is that they're not going to have to expose themselves to this. That means that you're basically putting your future in someone else's hands by hoping that they're just going to tell you the main things that you need to know. But also, me listening to that, for instance, I 100% do not want to read that before I go to the Olympics. I don't want to hear nothing. Do you know, I don't even want my friends and family texting me sometimes. Listen, I'd lock off my phone. You know what I don't want to hear? Nothing. I'm sorry. Nothing. I know everyone's wishing me well and saying good luck. Great. But I don't want to hear nothing. No dramas. I don't want to hear nothing. And I know this sounds really bad, but while I'm there, I don't want to hear about anyone that's passed away, anyone that's taken into hospital. Obviously, your mum's a different thing. But like, let's say a family member passes away. I can't do nothing about it. Am I coming home? The likelihood is no. I know this is dumb. This is really dumb, but this is the mental thing of an athlete.
Yeah.
You know, let me tell you this. You know what this Olympics has done? Put a lot of shit into perspective. I ain't been to christenings and weddings of family members because I'm like, look, dude, if you want to have the wedding in this month, in this year, dude, I'm not coming. That's on you. You know where I'm going to be. Mm-hmm. It's like you miss massive things all because of this. And then they would just, in this situation, you just realize that they'll take that away from you.
In a second.
So should you really take all those experiences away from yourself that you can never get back for an Olympic Games?
Upon reflection, no.
But when you're in it.
You know, I'm just realizing in 2004, my grandmother passed. My mom didn't tell me until after the games. And it's weird that didn't even stick out as a memory because I was so locked into the Olympics. The mind frame I was in, it wasn't like, I can't believe she didn't tell me. It was kind of like, well, I get it. I get why you didn't tell me. How cold is that? How
detached? Because the focus is ridiculous.
How detached are we as athletes for the dream?
For the dream.
One of my boys got this huge Olympic rings tattoo on his back, and it's got two hands coming out of the back of it, like he's handcuffed by the dream.
That says it all.
It says it all, yeah. Is he allowed to have that tattoo?
No.
If I didn't put him on blast.
Oh, by the way,
yeah. One named EJ.
No, you definitely put him on blast.
I did. A wicked tattoo though still.
But that's the reason why everyone's even going. Because if they were really thinking in a way that was logical, they wouldn't be going to this Olympics. If I look at all of this playbook and I look at the fact now there's no fans and I look at the fact that, you know, you can't have your family. Listen, left, right and centre, bare tennis players pulling out.
Yeah.
Of the Olympics. Serena Williams, Roger Federer, Nick Kyrgios, Rafael Nadal, Dominic Thiem, Joanna Konta. All of these top tennis players have all pulled out of the Olympics. No money and my rights and my life and my freedom is being taken away.
They're smart. They think logically.
No, but the reason why they think logically is because the Olympics doesn't matter to them.
No.
They have their 4 Grand Slams that matter to them. And there's 4 of them. So let's say something happens with one, they know they've got 3 others. So they're set themselves up in a situation where they've got every single year, they've got 4 major championships that like combined is amazing, but like individually you win one, it's like winning an Olympic gold medal to them. And I can understand like some sports that are not popular, like what's the sport that's in the Olympics that is kind of... I'm just saying.
Well, like archery.
Yeah. Now, that's cool, but it's not going to really bring in the like massive crowds and all the sponsors, is it, right? So
we got the archers, by the way.
They're not going to really... So, the Olympics is big to them. But track and field, we could be doing our own thing.
Yeah.
I think we need to move closer to the Olympics being similar to how tennis players view Olympics, where we have our own stuff that's massive, that pays us, that,
The Olympics is like, if you want to do it, you can do it. It's cool. You could do it for the whole love of the game stuff, but we base our life around that free shit.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not downplaying it, you know what I'm saying? But I'm just...
What, the Olympics?
Yeah, like in a way, there's a beauty in dedicating every single piece of your being for something that's free. Just because they love the sport.
Mm-hmm.
That's beautiful. I get it. The only problem is that there's other people who are profiting. There's other people that are exploiting. There's so much commercialization and so many people benefiting and getting money out of this whole thing. You're doing it for the love
of the sport.
While the athletes are just dedicating everything.
When I was competing and how we thought about it, I was so blinded by the whole dream that kept being fed into, right? Of this Olympics, and it's just a dream. And honestly, that was what got me into become an Olympian, was seeing Flojo at the Olympics, this big spectacle, this massive. So I understand it is important. It's amazing because look, it inspires thousands upon thousands of, Olympians. They watch that generation of athletes doing it and then they want to become that, right? However, I feel like we're not in our right minds. There's 7 billion people on the planet, but yet in your brain, you feel like you can be number 1 in the whole entire world.
Genuinely, yes.
You genuinely believe. And then you go out and you do all the training. And this thought is in your mind constantly that you can be the best in the whole entire world out of 7 billion people. Just in itself, if you really think about that, that's crazy to really believe it. So there's a certain mindset of an athlete that's like, that you need to be a bit out of your mind to actually be able to achieve that kind of goal.
Right.
However, for me, now having stepped away for so many years, having a child, living a normal life, I just realized how much the IOC exploit athletes. They exploit that dream that they grew up with. They exploit the fact that an athlete will miss the wedding of their whatever, or the christening, or how many people are going to miss the birth of their child at this Olympic Games. There's an 800 meter runner for the UK, Giles. Elliot Giles. Yeah, he's got a baby on the way. And Jeanette Kwachi was like, hopefully, your wife can hold on. Everyone knows no one ain't holding on. When baby's coming, right? And he's like, yeah, well, I don't know if that's going to happen, but you're going to miss the birth of your child for the Olympics. Now, all of these sacrifices, cool. But what do you get in return? The balance is not there for athletes and the IOC.
Right.
And this year particularly shows this. So we just did a poll. I put, here's a few rules the IOC force on athletes to be able to compete. Right? Mm-hmm. 1, the IOC do not pay athletes. So basically athletes are doing it for free, competing. 2, you have to give up all rights to your image. Basically 2 weeks before the Olympics starts or something like that, or just before the Olympics start for the whole 2 weeks of the Olympic period. Any pictures at the Olympic venue that get taken, you don't own them. If you want to own them and you want to use a picture, let's say, of you competing at the Olympics that you, like you just said, sacrificed, nearly enough killed yourself for, missed births, deaths, weddings, you can go to, let's say, Getty Images and pay £300 to £400 for your image if you want. And that's what the going rate is.
Remember when I made that video and I was trying to use your footage?
Yeah.
One of the presents for Jade's Christmas, I wanted to just be like a highlight video. She doesn't have no highlight videos of when she used to compete. I know that Getty has a lot of her videos. So I went, looked at all the clips, and I figured I'd just holler at them, just be like, yo, former athlete, competed, just wanted to be able to use these clips because on the original clips, it has like the Getty Images watermark over the top of it. I wanted the high res so it could be a proper video, right? And I called Getty up like, hey, you think I could perhaps get the high res of these videos? But they said they would need to know if it was for private use or for social media. I was like, yeah, it's for private use. But then I was like, this can't be posted on social media. To my knowledge, through some research I've done, I was told that this is just simply not allowed to be monetized and used for commercial use. They got back to me and said, we would need to provide you a separate license for social media use. A social media license is seen as a commercial license from our point of view. And then they said, we can let you know the cost of the social media license. I was like, I responded and said, I don't need no social media use. I'll tell her not to use on social media. It won't be used there. They responded and said, we would expect a guideline license fee of £105 per asset for personal use. So there's about 16 videos I wanted, right? Jade, I love you and everything, but damn, you're going to have to get the low res of this.
Listen to this feistiness, right? Listen to this feistiness. I was invited to this event. I don't know, it's like leading into Olympic year or whatever. And it was at this building called the BT Tower in London, kind of like a landmark-ish. Kind of looks like the CN Tower in Toronto, but obviously not as...
Is it tall?
I don't know, because I don't know how tall the bloody CN Tower is, and I don't know how...
It's tall still.
Yeah, I know, but the BT Tower is very, very tall as well. But anyway, so I get invited to this event. I turn up, I get there, I'm walking through the corridor, and I look, and I'm like, hold up. I look on the wall, they've got different... I see my picture, my image of me in like flight. Hold on a minute. No one asked me about this. If it's okay that I feel cool to be associated with BT. No one said, Jade, you want a little 1-2 change for this? Some money? I got air. I had no idea where my image is being used. I have no idea what it's being associated with, because once you sign that contract to say, I want to compete at the Olympics, you're basically signing bare of your rights away. You sign away being able to make any money on your images, being able to make money at the Olympics. Anyway, so I'm thinking to myself, hold on, is this okay? Got in contact with my agent. They're like, there's nothing we can do. It's an Olympics partner. And once you sign that contract, that's it. They can sell your image to whoever they want. Right?
Who's not going to sign that contract?
But this is the problem. Number 3, Rule 40, athlete/sponsor can't mention or use Olympic name. I know going into 2016, the US team went nuts for this rule. They did a whole protest thing. There was like a hashtag. It got really big to the point where they slightly edited the rule. Chris Gervais, who is where I saw this first, right, this rule, and what he said is, folks, the Olympics are coming, and so here's a reminder about Rule 40, and while you'll soon be seeing silly phrased Instagram and social media posts from athletes and sponsors referring to some big event in Japan. And the reason why he's phrased that tweet like that is because you're not allowed to use the name Olympics in association with yourself and a sponsor. They basically don't want to put their sponsors and their partners in jeopardy. So basically, this is what he wrote as well, right? So this is one of his things. What is Rule 40? So he did a little thing where he broke it down. Rule 40 was established to preserve the unique nature of the Olympic Games by preventing over-commercialization and to protect Olympic sponsors who spend millions of dollars for exclusive marketing rights during the Olympics. It effectively prevents athletes from hawking their own sponsor. But social media has added a layer of complexity to these sponsorships, and the rule means no unofficial sponsor can be associated with the Olympics on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, or anywhere else. So basically, this Rule 40 is completely and utterly to protect the Olympics and their partnerships and their sponsors. They don't care about the athlete. A sponsor would want to be associated with that athlete and say, look, we sponsored this Olympic champion. That might mean that the athlete could get more money. They might get more in their contract with that sponsor, right? But the Olympics don't care about that. They just care about their sponsorships and their partnerships. And let me ask you a question. Who benefits? The IOC and the partners and the Olympic. The athletes are what? Just the commodity, right? He put some pictures up, right, that the IOC have put out to give you an idea of what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. So it says, an athlete may make 7 social posts to thank his or her personal sponsor. They've got these stupid little like images, right? And it's got like a green tick saying permitted, and then it's got a red X saying not permitted. So it's telling you what you can do and what you can't do. So these are the few things, because before you weren't even allowed to do one. There was 0 that were allowed to happen. So you're allowed to have a picture of you, unbranded, not at the Olympics, it's just any random picture of you, right, saying, thank you. And then down at the bottom, you could say, thank you, whoever your sponsor is, and then #gold. You're not allowed to say Olympic gold medalist. And, everyone at home or other people that are looking at this just have to put it together that means that you won the gold at the Olympics, right, and just do that. And it says, why are you allowed to do this? And why is this permitted? So it's got a why. It's got 3 bullet points. Post uses generic, unbranded image and copy. Sponsor logo included only in conjunction with thank you message. Sponsor mentioned only once in the copy. Controlled, restricted, as a grown-ass adult who, like we spoke about, has sacrificed bare things to get to this point, and then they want to stranglehold you in such a way where they might let a little bit of air in, but only just enough for you to survive. You can't live. Anyway, what's not permitted? So they've got an image of like a chick playing tennis, and she's got a USA kit on, and then she's got the sponsor, and she's got the thank you, and she's got a ball whacking towards with the brand of the ball or whatever. That's not permitted. And it says, why is it not permitted? Post includes Team USA branded apparel. Post promotes a product or service, e.g. copy and image equaling the tennis ball, right? Sponsor mentioned more than once in the copy and the image, and sponsor logo apart from the thank you message. I mean, honestly, these people are literally strangling the life out of you. They basically own you. You're their bitch. Basically, once you sign that contract, which I did twice and you did twice, we're basically the IOC's bitch. All because of the dream from when I was 8 years old and I wanted to be this Olympian. And it's amazing. There is amazing things about it, but it shouldn't be so one-sided. In response to my tweet, a guy called Dr. Mark Bubbs, or at Dr. Bubbs on Twitter. Oh, he's from Toronto. Do you know him?
Reggie, you know how big Toronto is?
Why is it people say that? Anyway, Dr. Mark Bubbs says, it's outrageous. Imagine suggesting this contract today for a new league or competition. #time for change, #athlete first. And then our good friend Stuart McMillan, he put, a forward-thinking billionaire could end the IOC as we know it in a matter of days. It costs hundreds of millions to purchase a professional sports team. What about purchasing and partnering with the world's top 20 Olympic stars and starting a breakaway organisation? And then Mark Bubbs replies and says, it's a massive opportunity. $100 million investment could turn into $1 billion very quickly. I was like, ooh. Do you know what was interesting as well? Just the other day, I saw there's this company called Humble, or at Humble Pay, HUMBL Pay, right? They don't even, when you look on them, you don't even know what they are about. It doesn't even say, but I'm assuming it's some sort of maybe some sort of blockchain or some sort of company anyway, like that, crypto or something. They just randomly, that have got nothing to do with sport, one after another, bam, bam, bam. We're really happy to say that we're now sponsoring and supporting Shelley-Ann Fraser-Price for the next year. Bam. We're very happy to say that we're now sponsoring and supporting Gabby Thomas, the girl who ran the 2161. Bam. We're really pleased to announce that we're going to be supporting Ryan Krauser for the next year. Hold on, who are you? And you're just blapsing out supporting top athletes like this for the next year? Obviously, these people have got money. They want to get in on the game. This is the type of company, that kind of crypto millionaire, billionaire people that could easily come change the game. Obviously, they're interested in getting involved in sports in some way. Be kind of cool. Because then the IOC will really have to think about the way that they unfairly treat and compensate athletes. Because let me tell you, if there was no athletes, there would be no IOC or Olympics. But if there was no IOC or Olympics, there would still be athletes competing. So they need to understand that. if anything, it might break us out of our limitations and maybe we'll be a little bit more like the tennis players. 4, if athlete gets COVID, it's on them. So, right, there's this, this is what I just have to laugh, man. I really do.
So after all the stresses of what we just spoke about a second ago, if you do get COVID, it's on you.
Oh, yeah. The contract that you signed to go to the Olympics says, I agree that I participate in the games at my own risk and own responsibility, including any impact on my participation to and or performance in the games, serious bodily injury or even death raised by the potential exposure to health hazards such as the transmission of COVID-19 and other infectious diseases or extreme heat conditions. That's basically what you sign your rights away to by signing this contract to go to the Olympics. But you see how they tried to drop it in at the last little bit with, or extreme heat conditions. They just wanted to add that, like, as if to say that's just a general thing. Like, we're just doing that as the same as, like, if you get, like, heat stroke and die, it's not really on us. We can't control that. We know that's not the same thing, you idiots. What are you talking about? We're in the middle of a pandemic. So if you get COVID and die, then that's on you. And we ain't going to be responsible. And we ain't basically giving you no dough. We ain't helping you in any way. So you're risking everything and we get all the reward. Oh, no. Sorry, but you get a gold medal or a silver medal or a bronze medal.
Or no medal.
That's what I'm saying. But if you get no medal, then what? And let me tell you this, just from my event, when I remember competing, there was 50 girls. So you go in there and you know how many people get a medal? 3. 0.5, rule 50, dun dun dun, no protests. So all of everything we've said, plus you actually overcame all of these obstacles. You beat COVID, you actually got in the top 3 to make it to a podium. You overcome all of these restrictions. You were able to keep your mind right. You get to the podium. And when you get there, you're not allowed to use it to do a peaceful protest, which is your human right, because the IOC have decided that Rule 50, which is archaic, right, is still relevant in 2021.
Speaking of Rule 50, when Barry hit us up on Instagram and she sent a link to this Zoom call, it was like a Rule 50 information seminar. A bunch of athletes going to be in there. She was there. John Carlos was in there. Taila Vanguard, that spelling bee.
The girl who won the spelling bee, who also plays basketball and has got some world records.
Basketball. It's nuts. They had 2 representatives of the USA Olympic Committee.
President Bach reiterated it today that the IOC has told us that Rule 50 is in place. They've offered additional guidance with some of the things that can be done prior to a competition beginning, and that they will enforce Rule 50.
That had to do with the question I had. I mean, there's been some allowances. So pre-game on camera, that's owned by the media. Post competition interviews, owned by the media. The podium in particular, though, like, has the IOC at least stated what the issue is with the podium? Because that's a moment it's the athlete's moment. Like, that's their moment. You know what I'm saying? That's
right. If I stand for, equality amongst all people, particularly Black people, as a Black man, understanding what our plight is. Are you saying that the International Olympic Committee feels that might have been offensive to maybe people in Sweden or South Africa or Australia?
That's the IOC's position.
Right.
From a USOPC perspective, our rules and guidelines would say you have the opportunity to express yourself.
So after I wrote those 5 points, I said, should athletes boycott the Olympic Games? And then we did the poll. So should athletes boycott the Olympic Games? That's what I put the tweet out. And I was actually surprised because I thought everyone was going to be like, no.
I thought so too. What did the poll say?
An overwhelming 79% say yes.
Yes, boycott.
Boycott. 21% say no. Thinking about it more and more, I personally feel like this Olympics would have been the Olympics to boycott. I just am confused what it is that athletes are getting out of this.
It sucks for track because track is so dependent on validation from the Olympics as far as being the best.
At the moment.
Athletes just want to go against the best and want to be the best and be shown and proved to be the best. So the Olympics are the grounds for that. So they kind of are stuck with that. But if there was something else, yeah, they wouldn't really care too much about the Olympics either. If you're going to boycott, this would be the one. I don't want to disregard the good things that can come out of the Olympics, and I don't want to make people hesitant about going. The athletes that are going, it's still a huge experience. But it's not even really on the quadrennial anymore. It's not the typical circumstances. Competition and the variables that come with competition are totally different. No crowd?
Dude.
And what comes with that aspect of it and rising to the occasion with all that pressure of all the eyes in the stadium on you. And is this even really an Olympics?
I thought my friend Jackie Edwards, who does long jump, has been to the most Olympics with 5 Olympics. And I think Brittany Reese, I think she's going to her 4th or 5th Olympics.
Debbie Ferguson McKenzie did 6 Olympics. 5 as an athlete, 1 as a coach.
Yeah.
Yo, I remember when she ran anchor for Bahamas and they beat the USA in 2000.
Yeah.
That was crazy. Yo, I wonder what she would think about all this.
You know, I think it's going to be very interesting considering with COVID and the pandemic. We've recently heard that there will be no spectators in the stadium in Tokyo, which in my humble opinion, every Olympics I've been to, the spectators is what makes it the Olympics. You know, I just remember in 2000, especially running on that relay, and this is my 2nd Olympics, the kid on the team, and I had the anchor leg in a 4x1. And I remember just, you know, in front of 110,000 people in the stadium, in the stands, you know, being like, OMG, like this adrenaline rush, like this is amazing, like, wow. And that's what gave me the adrenaline to perform, like that edge to perform. You know, so I think the spectators make the Olympics. It's going to be a challenge, but it might turn out to be positive. I just don't think it's going to be the same. I just pray for good health. You know, for some people who focus on what they need to focus on, they get the job done. And for those who focus on the wrong things, no matter what you do, they're not going to get the job done.
The crowds. There's not going to be any crowds. Now, the emphasis I put on it as far as how valid it is to making an Olympics is one thing. But just being an athlete and being able to respond to the environment, that's ultimately going to be taken away. And I was thinking about it. I thought it might be kind of like a glamorized training session with just the best athletes in the world there. And maybe the pressure would be lower. But what if the pressure is higher? When the crowd's there, you have an idea of how people feel about you. Like you get the feedback, how they feel about you, how they feel about what's going on. It gives you an idea of what people are thinking. But when there's no one there, it leaves it up for interpretation. There's an uncertainty there. What are the millions of people around the world that are watching thinking of me, of the event, of my performance, of what I'm going to do, what I'm not going to do? I think the uncertainty can potentially add to the nerves as well, because the mirror of the crowd isn't there. The crowd is a reflection of what's going on or what you're doing.
What is the most memorable experience? When you think about your Olympic experience, what is the thing that is the most memorable thing about the Olympics?
Yo, Reggie, when I walked out of the call room and I caught a glimpse out of the tunnel of this swarm of fans that I've never seen this many people together in my life. And then when you actually do walk out, the feeling of the energy that's in the stadium, you can't duplicate that. That's a part of it. You've never been in an environment like this.
Beijing, it was kind of crazy because they weren't really crazy fans. So you couldn't really hear loads and loads of noise. It was really interesting. I walked out and I saw the crowd. I swear to God, like I literally peed myself a little bit. Like a little pee. You know, you ever get scared? Like, whoa! You know, I'm just saying, happens, man.
The crowd makes the scene. The crowd makes the event. I'm sorry, it's not going to be the same.
I feel really bad.
Can you imagine setting a world record with no crowd, or getting on the podium, or doing a victory lap? Any moment I can remember, the crowd was just it's an ingredient that's very, very, very important.
Extraordinarily.
It's fried chicken without batter. Yeah, it's not fried chicken no more, yo. It's
raw.
Chicken.
It's raw.
The new events that are coming in, they're very crowd dependent. There's skateboarding and there's breakdancing, Bridget.
Imagine breakdancing.
All you're going to hear is bare on the cardboard, yo. No kind of response.
Cardboard, you know.
And the energy. As a jumper, I mean...
Oh, no. A big part of field events for certain athletes is getting the crowd involved. You know, everyone who watches track and field sees that. You know, they stand on the runway or stand and they get the crowd clapping, ready to... Because it hypes them. Enough times, someone's just come out and blaps a big throw or jump on you, right? And you're like, oh my God, and now you've really got to get in the mindset. And then you're like, you know what? Get in my clap, come on. They get the crowd clapping. And then they start going and you go with the rhythm of the clap. And as you get closer to the board or as you get closer to the bar, they get faster. The clap gets hyped. None of that.
You know, I was thinking about the fact that jumpers or all field event people get the most exposure to crowds.
Absolutely.
Because you guys stay out there.
Yes.
We used to be in
hours.
and out of there. We come compete and then we're gone. You guys stay in the middle of that crowd and that environment for a couple of hours.
Yeah, sometimes between an hour and a half and 2 hours.
It's an X factor. And that's what usually takes people to new heights.
Of course it does.
And to new personal bests and taking their body to new places. It's the energy of the crowd. When I went, 08, I had my quarterfinal with Bolt. So the crowd was absolutely ridiculous. It obviously wasn't as loud as for the finals, but it was definitely ridiculously loud. And I know, I mean, it ain't boost meets nothing, but I'm just saying it's a factor. And the world record. The world record 4x1 the crowd. I'm sorry, I'm just remembering right now. I totally forgot how ridiculously loud when Jamaica set the world record into 4x1 and Bolts, the whole thing. It was. Will it be the same if they do artificial fan noise?
Definitely not. I feel bad for the Japanese athletes. Imagine when you got the Olympic bid, how many years ago, 8 years ago, and all you've done is dream of this moment of in the crowd. But you know, you're Japanese, you're thinking about it. And then they just told you last week that there's no crowds. I remember when I was doing the Olympic final in Athens and some girl that I didn't even know who she was, and I think she was quite new on the scene, won the gold for Greece in the four hurdles. The crowd in Athens, overall, Athens was kind of like a bit of a Dega Olympics. But do you know what makes that such a memorable Olympic Games? The crowd. They are nuts. They are the best, most loud, crazy crowd ever. Like, I've never actually been to any championships or anything where the crowd has been that absolutely berserk. I was deafened. I had to put my hands over my ears like, oh my gosh, I had to put my earplugs in because I couldn't. You know when you hear that saying, it's so loud I can't hear my own self think. I couldn't. But it's amazing. Imagine her and what her experience is. None of that for those Japanese athletes.
The crowd was a part of the field. You couldn't have had the same outcome or the same feel.
The same experience.
Without the crowd.
Yeah.
Every memory I have of a big performance, I hear the crowd. Any memory at this games, are you going to replay it? How do you replay it? Do you just replay what you see? Is that good enough? I don't know. I've never had that experience before, viewing or being there. You could put a name on anything, but is this actually really an Olympics? As far as what Olympics has been up to this point?
The world that we live in right now, you can basically say you're whatever you want to be.
You can say anything is anything.
You can basically, like, I was saying this one day, like, what if a black person decided they just want to say they're white? Are they white? They identify as white, so are they white?
Oh, technically no, but...
This is what world we're living in.
But technically, yes.
Listen, you don't want me to get into this. It might be a future podcast. I don't know. To me, like, what is something or is everything just whatever? No, you know what I mean? Like, is the Olympics because of these things? And so when they're not those things anymore, can you still call it the Olympics? Right. I don't know. It's like the lines of what we've always known are completely being blurred.
If you could say anything is anything, then everything is nothing.
Right. Oh, that's deep.
No, I wasn't up. I was just trying to slowly say it. If you could say anything is anything, then what is anything?
But then that's where...
Because anything can be anything. What distinguishes anything? Nothing.
I don't necessarily agree that this is really an Olympics.
Yeah.
If it doesn't fall under what the parameters of what an Olympics is.
Well, in the early stages of COVID, I was like, well, you might as well just not have the Olympics if it's not going to be in 2020. It's not the Olympics no more if it's not. I was like, you might as well wait. In my opinion, I felt like that before. But for me to say I'm not excited about this competition that's coming up,
I am.
I'm very excited about it.
I think we kind of need it as well. But like we say that, but when we start seeing it, will it be too blatantly still in your face, the COVID? Like, you don't want it thrown in your face every minute. You just want to try to get back to some more normality. We know there's a pandemic. We know there's COVID. We're trying to get on with our lives. So maybe to watch an Olympics that's so different than what it would normally be, it might be really, really like emotional. As a world, we've all been through like craziness this last year or so. Like, is there even an opening and closing ceremony?
There is, but not everyone can attend. Is
there a crowd?
No crowd.
No, for the opening ceremony, there's no crowd.
No crowd. And
what is that?
Only certain athletes can attend. I guess it's whether or not you're there 5 days before your competition. 5 days,
yeah. So you might have like 15 athletes.
Maybe
just
or
like
none. You know those countries that only have like 1 or 2
athletes,
people who, or less than 10 people who are going.
Who's carrying the flag? And let me ask you a question.
Maybe a mascot.
Are they maybe a mascot? That would just sum up.
Even just thinking about opening and closing ceremonies, you know how you know what I'm saying, you come across some people, you want to take pictures. You want to, wave to the camera on videos. It's just going to be bare masks. Oh, I met Yao Ming at closing ceremonies. Yao Ming.
Yao Ming.
Yo, I don't even know how this happened. I went to the bathroom on my own, closing ceremonies, and this giant walks out of the bathroom. It's Yao Ming. And it was just the 2 of us. Yeah. So,
who did he play for?
He played for the Houston Rockets. And at that time, I was playing NBA. Which 2K would that have been? Oh, NBA 2K4. Mm-hmm. And Houston was my team. And Yao was my best player. I'll be killing with Yao. So I was like, yo, I'll be murdering with you with 2K, man. He started laughing a little bit. I was like, yo, let me get a picture, man. It was only the 2 of us. And my boy Pierre rolled up. I was like, yo, take this picture real quick. Pierre took the picture. And then he was like, oh, can you get me too? So I was like, whatever. He didn't really care. I was more tied to Yao than him because I was killing with him in the game. So anyways, took the picture of him. But now people will start to see, Yao is by himself. Yao is taking pictures. Yo, people started flooding this guy. I felt so bad, man, because he actually had
your fault, Anson.
I know.
But he's like 7. I met him too.
Oh,
he's
for
like,
real?
Yeah, I got a picture with him.
7'7".
I only got a picture with him. I don't ask for pictures with people. The only 2 people I ever asked for a picture with at the Olympics was Serena and Venus.
Right. All these interactions ain't happening.
This is what I'm saying.
That's a big part of the games.
Massive.
All these supreme athletes are coming together, and you meet people that you would have never otherwise met, and they meet you. And it's just being engulfed in that environment with all these people. That's what the Olympics is.
Yeah.
Is this an Olympics?
The parties at the Olympics are like off the chain. I remember in 2004, we went to a Sports Illustrated party, like some far place on the water. It was do you remember?
I didn't get in.
You didn't get in?
No, stuck outside. Outside was still fun too, though, by the way.
No, it was fun because a lot of athletes, but I got in.
Congratulations, you're cool.
Well, usually when you go to an Olympics, all the shoe contracts, like the Adidas, Nike, all the different ones, you have all different types of what they call like Adidas House. Nike House. They basically, these type of sponsors or partners rent out a place where for the whole entire place, that's where they wine and dine people. That's where they
got gear.
You got gear. You can go there and get free stuff. You can go and chill.
That's not happening.
That's not happening. Do you remember when we went to Beijing? What was the place to go that every athlete coach, when you finished competing, went?
Silk Market.
Anyone who went to Beijing will know what about the silk market. I rinsed
the silk market.
I killed the silk market.
All kinds of phony gear.
Off the back of the truck. No, because in China is where they make all of the stuff.
A lot of it was legit.
A lot of it's legit. But what it is like, it's like, this is going to like Mulberry, these bags, or this is going to like Louis Vuitton. Yeah. Okay. They can go to Louis Vuitton now, but let's keep a little few back. Yeah. And then they go to the silk market. Yeah. All of the brand name stuff.
I rinsed it. You know what made me sick? Some Louis Vuitton for like $10, once it's converted.
But guess what? That ain't happening.
Page 16. Every athlete has to complete an activity plan. Okay. So you work with your CLO, COVID liaison officer, to finalize your planned and possible destinations. So athletes have to submit your plan to the Tokyo 2020 crew for approval by the Japanese authorities. It will be very difficult to request changes once approved, so it's very important to be as comprehensive as possible when submitting. All planned and possible destinations are restricted to official games, venues, and limited additional locations as defined by the list of permitted destinations. So I guess there's a list of places that you can go.
And what did that sound like, that you can only go and watch other events?
Maybe.
Maybe you're not even allowed to go and sightsee?
Maybe not. So what are you going to put in your plan anyways? I'm going to the track and I'm
So
going
you
to
want
be
to go
going to the
sightseeing
village.
to see something?
You're
You
not
have to
sightseeing nothing. There's no sightseeing happening.
unless you do all of this. You've got to put
so
down.
if there is an activity, before you get there, you have to know what activity you're going to do. I wouldn't even know, like even the silk market, I found out about the silk market when I got there, right?
No, but that's the thing. But then would athletes want to do any of these things anyway?
Reggie, not trying to roll the dice with that positive test. You know what I'm saying? And then after you're done competition, you got to be out of there in 2 days anyway. So you're going to really try to squeeze in doing something within those 2 days afterwards. And really, you got to plan that before your competition that, afterwards, I'm going to go to whatever in Tokyo. So
basically spontaneity and freedom and that relaxed vibe of what athletes need.
It's not a silk market thing this time, yo.
Do you even think it's right that the Olympics went ahead when 80% of Japanese people didn't want the Olympics to happen?
It's tricky because I still identify with the athletes and their dream and how badly they want it. It would have been heartbreaking for them to take that away from them.
With everything else we've already spoken about?
We already said they ain't even thinking like that. Their mind's wrapped around this thing. So I feel
but that's
that.
Because they're not thinking rationally. But they're not thinking rationally.
Right. So me now thinking rationally, it would have been best to not have this one or to boycott this one.
80%. Who do you think are paying?
Was it of Japan or of Tokyo?
Japan. A lot of it's would have been taxpayers' money. And I feel like they had a right to have a say. There's this one guy, he's a journalist, Stephen Wade, Associated Press sports writer, Stephen Wade AP on Twitter, right? And he's based in Tokyo. He's forever cussing the Olympics, and mainly for the Japanese people, and also mainly the fact that the IOC are just money-grabbing parasites that just want to suck everything out of. They just want to gain what they want, and they're not caring or thinking about athletes. They're not caring or thinking about the Japanese people. They're not caring about anyone else, just what they gain. But there was this thing I saw the other day. He was just going off again on one of his thread. He love a thread, this guy. But so he's made the first point, second point. But the third point, which I kind of found interesting, is that these games may be different. Japanese saddened and embarrassed by the course correction and soaring costs and now no fans. IOC exposed as sports and entertainment business driven by billions in TV money. And I had read something somewhere that if they had pulled out, they would basically be liable for paying back the money to like NBC or whatever, because they're in a contract. So the IOC would be liable. But if Japan pulled out, Japan would be liable to the IOC. So there's this thing where no one wants to pay all those billions back, right, or whatever it is. This is what this guy talked about. No matter whether athletes are being at risk, people are being at risk. There's a whole pandemic of like craziness in Japan. They don't care. Rather than the debacle with calling Japanese people Chinese, he's more interested in how someone can claim, as he did today, talking about Thomas Bach, this games is for all the athletes, when he's had them all sign waivers to indemnify the IOC regarding anything to do with COVID. Alfie Goodridge, his Twitter picture says FUCK and then it's got the Olympic rings and then FF, like off, but it's using the Olympic rings. He posted that little bit of the waiver that athletes have to sign that basically means that if they die of COVID or anything else, the IOC are not liable.
Well, it's probably too late to pull out now.
I'm sure plenty of mans have said that in the past.
Oh, wow.
Oh, well, you know enough mans have said that in the past, man. Oh, well, they're writing it. They're writing it. Like, man, it's too late to pull out now.
Yeah.
It's never too late. But you see, when you're in that moment,
tough.
which is where we're at in the Olympics, it's that maybe it's not going to happen, and it's too late.
It's not going to happen, yo.
It's too late
is what
to
it is,
pull
yo.
out now.
Just deal with that.
Now you got to deal with them consequences.
Deal with that post-nut guilt, yo.
Thinking about all this stuff, there's a story that keeps coming to mind.
Right.
And I think it might have to be a long story short. Not short. Long story not short. In Beijing, I was like probably in the best shape of my life. Physically, I was ripped, I was light, my body to weight ratio was amazing, like my strength was really good, my power was good. Everything was good. My speed was amazing. It was one of those ones where I look at my coach, he looks at me. It's just that knowing, like, yeah, man, you are ready. And I'd been to an Olympics, before, and I'd come sixth or whatever. And so this was like, I'm ready for this. I was 28 years old in my prime. And I remember it was funny, like they were giving out these little like things for rehydration and things like caffeine had been taken off the list, so you could have caffeine like supplements up to a certain amount of caffeine. So there was these like little caffeine gels, and they're like, if you're out there for a long time as an athlete, we want you to try these things out. And obviously, like for a jumper or a field event, you're out there for maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours even sometimes. So that just keeps you up, you know. So I was like, oh, okay, try it out. Obviously, we'll see. We're still in the holding camp, so they're just trial and error to see what works for you. Tried it out. So I'm waiting for my coach. I'm warming up. I'm like doing these stretches, and I'm like kind of doing this stretch where my leg's in like a figure 4 position, and I'm stretching, and then all of a sudden my head starts spinning. So I'm stretching, and then I'm like feeling dizzy, and then pop, something just goes in my knee, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't walk. So we like go to the medical side. Everyone starts panicking. Oh my God, oh my God, you know, I'm panicking. John's looking like I've never seen him panic. He's the most cool, calm, collected guy, but I see this look in his eyes. Anyway, have to rush, get an MRI scan. There's a cyst or some sort of something in the joint that I've popped, and I'm going to have to take 4 days off to rest it. I have to have some cortisone injection to reduce the inflammation. So I'm like, oh my God, my head's I'm going mad. My brain is, I'm like, okay, what can I do? What are the things I can do, John? It's so stupid. We're already in shape. I could have been cool for 4 days, but you're just thinking this is like the last week going into your championship, you know, the Olympics. So I do that, finally overcome it, feel good, like, okay, cool, get back. Things are still looking good. After the 4-day break, start training again. 2 days after that, all good. We were staying in a 5-star hotel in Macau, and we had the whole hotel. It was a brand new hotel, so we had the whole our team. So they were catering just for us and blah, blah, blah. The food was all like worked with the nutritionist, and, you know, everything's so meticulously done, right? Anyway, I don't know what it was, but I had whatever I had, some food. I go to bed. That night, I wake up and I'm in agony. My stomach feels like someone's got a knife and they're turning, and I'm like, it's the middle of the night. I'm screaming. I'm like, but it's like the middle of the night. So I'm trying to and I'm on the toilet and I'm vomiting, and I'm on the toilet but it's like 3 a.m. So who am I? I didn't know what to do. I was like, so I was in agony for 3 hours. Soon as around about 6 something, I couldn't cope. Called the team doctor. They take a sample of my, you know, whatevers, and comes back with a result that I've got like food poisoning. So I've got like some parasite or whatever. So now I have to go on some sort of antibiotics or whatever. I don't even know what kind of all I know is I'm in absolute agony. And all I'm thinking is, in like 3 days, I've got to go to the Olympics. That's the date that's been in my head for the last year. Anyway, the day comes where I'm supposed to be traveling, and the doctor comes and sees me and is like, yeah, I don't think you're going to be going today. And I look at him like, what? Hell no, I'm going. I don't care what no one says. Oh, this was the night before. I don't care what no one says. I'm going. And John's like looking at me like, are you sure? And I said, I don't care. I'm going. They'll say, well, okay, we'll see how you are in the morning. In the morning, this is the day I'm supposed to be leaving. In my head, I'm leaving. But this hotel, where my room was about a mile away, it felt like, from the elevator, the lift. So I'm trying to go down to get breakfast. I'm still in agony. I crawl down the corridor. I tried to walk and I didn't have the energy. So I started crawling. And in my head, I'm like going, how am I going to, in like 4 days' time, 3 days, be on a runway, fit and well enough to compete in the Olympics? Like, I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't know. I crawl down I remember crawling like really slowly, and I get there in the lift, and then I try to walk because I don't want anyone to see me like act in a ways. And then I eat some dry bread to try and soak up the acid juice in my stomach. And then I come out of the dining hall, and then I collapse on the floor, and then people come rushing, and I'm like, no, I'm fine. Get off me. In my head, I'm going. This mental side, I don't know what it is. I'm going. Somehow I dug into some reserves that I don't think people are supposed to dig into unless it's an emergency. And in my head, this is a severe emergency. You know, one of those ones where you see a woman and her kids are stuck in the car and she's like, ah! And she lifts up the car somehow because there's some mad reserve but then after she's probably like ripped some tendons and muscles, but she just was able to do it because it's like life or death. In my sick brain, I thought this was life and death. 2-hour flight. I somehow got on it. And then I just gradually, I had 4 days to my final. I rested for 2 more days. Anyway, I got to the qualifying round and somehow, I don't know, I muster up something. I jumped like 6:30 in the first round, which is really, really bad considering the shape I was in. And then I jumped 6:33 in the second round. And I'm like, got one more chance to qualify. I'm in like 40-something place. I don't even know. And I don't know, I dug something out of me on the last round, jumped like 660 something, qualified in like 10th place, made the final. The final had a day between rests, so I was able to like have a little bit of a rest. I was feeling much better, but really drained. Made the final, came 7th, which to be really honest, I was really pissed off about. But when I think about it now, I think about that whole scenario and how delusional I was, what mindset I was in. I swear to God, this must be what athletes, all of them though, as a collective, is that they just don't care. They are going to overcome all of this because the Olympic Games is the dream, the pinnacle. You know, you have had that date in your mind and nothing is going to stop you. No, I don't care if it's COVID, the pandemic, 25 PCR tests every day. I don't care what I've got to do. No crowds, whatever. I don't care. But there's no rational thought. And I'm telling you, the mindset is what must be going through these athletes' minds right now, because you will do crazy stuff that doesn't make any sense and is not logical. Now, rationally, I look at this Olympic Games. It's not a logical Olympic Games to go to with everything they've got to overcome. But if I was an athlete, I'm telling you, I'm still probably going.
Same. And I'd probably be pissed at people saying to boycott it.
This whole podcast was really just delving into why it wouldn't necessarily be a good idea, what the positives are, you know, what the negatives are, the mindset of an athlete, everything that's going on around it. But at the same time, if it is going to go ahead, I'm looking forward to some good athletics.
Well, this pandemic Olympics will be something. I'm excited to watch it still. As excited? No. As intrigued? Yes. Thanks for tuning in to the Unconventional Voices of Track and Field podcast. Like, follow, and join the conversation at Voices of TNF, as well as subscribe to the show across all podcast platforms.